The hallway upstairs had always been the quietest place in the house. Even as a child, Ethan believed it had a different kind of silence, one that carried memories instead of emptiness. Every family photo hanging on the pale blue walls reminded him of birthdays, vacations, arguments, and Christmas mornings. But one door at the end of the hallway always felt different. His sister Lily's room. For 23 years, it had been unmistakably hers. Soft lavender paint covered the walls. White fairy lights framed the window. Shelves overflowed with novels, tiny potted plants, scented candles, and framed photographs from school trips and family vacations. Her laughter had filled that room for years. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. Lily accepted a job nearly 1,000 miles away. The morning she left, the whole family stood in the driveway as the moving truck disappeared around the corner. His mother cried. His father quietly waved until the truck vanished. Ethan simply stood there with his hands buried in his hoodie pockets, unsure what he was feeling. Happy for her, proud of her, but also strangely empty. The house suddenly seemed much larger than before. A week later, Ethan? His mother's voice echoed from downstairs. Yeah. Can you help me with something? He walked into the kitchen. His mother slid a mug of coffee across the counter before speaking. I've been avoiding Lily's room. I noticed. She smiled weakly. I can't walk in there without thinking she'll come back tonight. Ethan nodded. I understand. She sighed. I think it's time we organize it a little. You mean clean it? Not throw anything away. She quickly shook her head. Just make some space. Pack a few things safely. Dust the shelves. Fold the clothes she didn't take. She looked toward the hallway. I can't do it today. Ethan hesitated. You want me to? She smiled. If you're okay with it. He forced a grin. Sure. The bedroom door creaked softly. Nothing inside had changed. The faint scent of vanilla perfume still floated through the room. The curtains moved gently in the afternoon breeze. Everything looked exactly the way Lily had left it. Her favorite sweater hung over the chair. A half-finished puzzle rested on the desk. Sticky notes decorated her mirror. A coffee mug still sat beside a stack of books. For a moment, Ethan almost expected her to walk in and say, Hey, don't touch my stuff. Instead, only silence answered. He began with the easy things. Dusting, folding blankets, stacking books, organizing notebooks. An hour passed quietly. Then he opened the wardrobe. It was much fuller than he expected. Rows of neatly arranged clothes stretched across the closet. Sweaters, cardigans, summer dresses, long skirts, winter coats, scarves arranged by color. Everything perfectly organized. Typical Lily. She always color-coded everything. Ethan chuckled. You'd organize a rainbow if you could. He reached for an empty storage box. As he folded one sweater after another, something caught his attention. One cardigan. Cream-colored. Oversized. Soft-looking. It reminded him of something Lily always said. If you're having a terrible day, she would wrap herself inside that cardigan. Everything feels better in this. He smiled. He remembered teasing her endlessly. It's just a sweater. She always answered, No. It's therapy. Without thinking much, Ethan rubbed the sleeve between his fingers. It was unbelievably soft. Softer than any hoodie he owned. He laughed quietly. I guess you were right. He folded it, then unfolded it. His curiosity lingered. Why did this fabric feel so different? Why was it so comforting just to touch? He couldn't explain it. He looked toward the bedroom door. Still closed. The hallway remained silent. No footsteps. No voices. He lifted the cardigan. Just to examine it. Nothing more. He slipped one arm through. Then the other. The oversized sleeves draped comfortably over his hands. It was warm. Light. Comfortable. Far more comfortable than he expected. He laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. Yet, he didn't immediately take it off. Instead, he looked around the room. Nothing had changed. Except, he somehow felt calmer. Almost as though he had borrowed a small piece of his sister's comforting presence. Not because he wanted to become her, but because the room suddenly didn't feel quite so empty anymore. His eyes drifted toward the large mirror beside the wardrobe. For several seconds, he simply stared. The oversized cardigan looked strangely natural, almost cozy. He tilted his head. He wasn't judging himself. He wasn't trying to make sense of anything. He was simply curious. And curiosity can be surprisingly powerful. A sudden sound downstairs shattered the moment. Ethan, his mother's voice. "I'm making lunch." His heart jumped. He quickly slipped the cardigan off, folded it carefully, and placed it back exactly where it had been. He checked the mirror again. No evidence. No wrinkles. Nothing out of place. Still, as he left the room, he found himself glancing back at the wardrobe one last time. For reasons he couldn't explain, it no longer looked like an ordinary closet. It looked like the beginning of a question he had never thought to ask himself. The afternoon drifted by quietly. Lunch was ordinary. His father talked about work. His mother mentioned calling Lily over the weekend. Ethan contributed little to the conversation. Not because anything was wrong, but because his mind kept wandering back upstairs. Back to the room. Back to the cream-colored cardigan. It wasn't the clothing itself that occupied his thoughts. It was the feeling, the unexpected sense of calm that had come over him for those few moments. He couldn't quite explain it, and the more he tried, the less sense it made. That evening, rain began to fall. Soft drops tapped against the windows, turning the house even quieter than usual. His father settled into the living room to watch the news. His mother curled up on the couch with a book. Ethan tried to focus on a movie in his bedroom, but after 20 minutes, he realized he hadn't followed the plot at all. He muted the television. The hallway outside was silent. Almost without thinking, he stepped into it. Lily's bedroom door was still slightly open from earlier. He paused in the doorway. "I'm just finishing what I started," he murmured to himself. It sounded reasonable enough. He walked inside. The room greeted him with the same familiar scent of vanilla and fresh laundry. The rain outside made the fairy lights reflected in the window seem warmer somehow. He continued folding clothes into storage boxes. Sweaters, scarves, jeans. Simple, ordinary tasks. Yet every now and then, his eyes drifted toward the section where the cardigan hung. Finally, he smiled at himself. "You're acting like it's some kind of mystery." He reached for it again. This time there was less hesitation. He slipped it on. The fabric settled over his shoulders like a warm blanket. He let out a quiet breath. "I get it now," he whispered with a small laugh. No wonder Lily loved this thing. He wandered around the room absent-mindedly, straightening books on the shelves and watering the small plant by the window. The cardigan moved comfortably with him, oversized without feeling awkward. On the dresser sat a framed photograph. Lily and Ethan at the beach years ago. She had buried him in sand until only his head was visible. He remembered laughing so hard that his stomach hurt. Another picture showed Lily helping him tie his school tie on his first day of high school. She had always looked after him, even when they argued, even when she teased him. She had been the person who reminded him to believe in himself. Looking around her room now felt less like invading a private space and more like visiting someone he missed. His attention shifted to a small jewelry tray. Neatly arranged were a simple silver bracelet, a few rings, and a delicate necklace with a tiny star pendant. He picked up the pendant carefully. "It always matched your favorite sweater," he remembered aloud. He smiled, then placed it back exactly where it belonged. Everything in the room seemed to tell a story. The stack of novels beside the bed. Concert tickets tucked into the mirror frame. A handwritten list titled, "Things I Want to Do Before I'm 30. Some items were crossed out. Some weren't. He couldn't help but smile. As he continued organizing, he noticed a notebook tucked between two photo albums. Across the front, Lily had written in careful handwriting, "Things I learned the hard way." Curiosity got the better of him. He hesitated. Reading someone's journal felt wrong. He started to put it back. Then he noticed it wasn't a diary. Each page contained short reflections, lessons, advice, funny observations. One page caught his eye. Confidence isn't about never being afraid. It's about refusing to let fear make every decision. Another read. People spend years trying to become who others expect. Happiness begins when you stop pretending. Ethan stared at the words longer than he expected. They weren't dramatic. They weren't life-changing. Yet something about them settled quietly in his mind. He gently closed the notebook and returned it to its place. The rain intensified. Thunder rolled in the distance. He sat in Lily's desk chair and watched the droplets race down the window. The room had become strangely peaceful. He wasn't trying to escape his own life. He wasn't pretending to be someone else. He was simply thinking. Thinking about confidence. About growing up. About how easily people assumed they knew who they were supposed to be. At 19, Ethan often felt as though everyone else had received a map for adulthood except him. College, career, relationships, goals. Everyone seemed so certain. He wasn't. A loud buzz from his phone broke the silence. Lily calling. He answered immediately. Hey. Hi, little brother. Her cheerful voice instantly brightened the room. How's the new apartment? Ethan asked. It's finally starting to feel like home. You surviving? Barely, she laughed. I've assembled exactly one bookshelf without breaking anything. I'm impressed. So, how's Mom? She misses you. I know. Dad pretends he doesn't. Lily laughed again. And you? Ethan looked around the bedroom. I'm okay. There was a brief pause. You sound thoughtful. Just helping organize your room. Oh. Her voice softened. That must feel weird. A little. Don't throw away my ugly green sweater. The one with the giant snowflakes? Exactly. It's staying. And the cream cardigan? Ethan glanced down at the sleeves he was still wearing. My emotional support cardigan? He froze. Lily laughed. I know it sounds ridiculous. It does. But it's unbelievably comfortable. Told you. She sounded genuinely pleased. I've had that thing since high school. I can see why you kept it. Seriously, if you ever have a stressful day. She paused dramatically. Borrow it. Ethan blinked. What? It's just clothing. If it makes you feel cozy, I don't mind. He smiled without realizing it. Thanks. Just don't spill coffee on it. No promises. After the call ended, Ethan remained standing quietly. He hadn't told her he was wearing it. But somehow, the conversation had removed the strange feeling of secrecy. It was just a cardigan. A comfortable one. Nothing more. Still, he couldn't ignore that it had become something else in his mind. A reminder of someone he loved. A reminder that comfort wasn't something to be embarrassed about. Before leaving the room, Ethan carefully folded the cardigan and placed it back exactly where he had found it. He straightened the sleeves, closed the wardrobe doors, turned off the light. As he stepped into the hallway, he paused for one final glance. The room no longer felt abandoned. It felt like it was waiting. Waiting for Lily's next visit. Waiting for more memories. And, perhaps, waiting for Ethan to learn something unexpected about himself. Not overnight, but one small, honest step at a time. He gently closed the door. Downstairs, his parents were laughing at something on television. Ethan smiled. For the first time since Lily had moved away, the house didn't feel quite so empty. The following week settled into a familiar rhythm. Morning classes, part-time shifts at the local bookstore, evening dinners with his parents. On paper, nothing had changed. Yet every now and then, Ethan would find himself thinking about the quiet room at the end of the hallway, not because it held secrets, but because it reminded him of someone who had always encouraged him to be curious. Saturday arrived with bright sunshine. His parents left early to visit his grandparents. We'll be back before dinner, his mother called as she grabbed her purse. Don't forget to eat. I won't, Ethan replied. A few moments later, the front door closed. The house fell silent. He planned to spend the day catching up on homework, but after an hour of staring at the same page, he gave up. Instead, he decided to finish organizing Lily's room. Dust floated through the beams of sunlight pouring in through the window. The room felt different now. Less like a place frozen in time, and more like a collection of stories waiting to be appreciated. He sorted old notebooks into neat stacks. He packed away childhood keepsakes. He labeled storage boxes so Lily would know where everything was when she visited. While arranging a shelf, a small photo album slipped to the floor. Inside were pictures from years ago. Lily teaching him how to ride a bicycle, helping him bake a birthday cake, cheering at one of his school plays. He smiled. She had never tried to make him into someone else. She had always encouraged him to discover who he already was. Near the bottom of a drawer, Ethan found a sketchbook. Its pages were filled with clothing designs. Some were elegant evening outfits. Others were casual jackets, sweaters, and scarves. In the margins, Lily had written notes like, "Comfort matters as much as appearance. Clothes should help people feel like themselves. Style is a language. Everyone deserves to speak it in their own way." Ethan read each page slowly. He had never known she enjoyed fashion design. Looking through the sketches wasn't about wanting the clothes themselves. It was about seeing how much thought Lily had put into helping people feel confident. For the first time, fashion seemed less about trends and more about expression. That evening, Ethan opened his laptop. Instead of watching videos about video games, he searched for something different. How does personal style affect confidence? He found interviews with designers, psychologists, and everyday people talking about clothing as a form of self-expression. One speaker said, "What we wear doesn't define who we are, but it can influence how confidently we carry ourselves." That idea stayed with him. Over the next few days, Ethan started paying attention to details he had never noticed before. The colors people chose, the way different jackets changed someone's appearance, how confidence often came from wearing something that felt authentic rather than fashionable. He realized he had spent years dressing without thinking, choosing whatever happened to be clean. Maybe there was nothing wrong with that. But maybe there was also room to discover what styles genuinely appealed to him. One afternoon, Lily called during her lunch break. "How's my favorite little brother?" "I'm your only little brother." Exactly. They both laughed. After talking about work and family, Ethan mentioned finding her sketchbook. "I didn't know you drew all those designs." "Oh," she said, sounding almost embarrassed. "That was a hobby I never really showed anyone." "They're good." "You really think so?" "I do." There was a brief silence. Then Lily smiled through the phone. "That means a lot." "You wrote something interesting." "What?" "Style is a language." Lily chuckled. "I still believe that." "What does it mean?" "It means people shouldn't be afraid to express themselves respectfully and honestly. Whether someone likes bright colors, plain clothes, vintage fashion, or something completely different, it's okay to have your own style." Ethan nodded, even though she couldn't see him. "I never thought about it that way." Most people don't. After the call ended, Ethan looked in the mirror in his own room. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about whether he looked cool or whether anyone would approve. He simply wondered, what kind of person do I want to be? It wasn't a question about clothes. It was a question about confidence, about authenticity, about allowing himself to grow instead of trying to fit into expectations he had never chosen. He didn't have an answer yet, but for the first time, he felt comfortable admitting that he was still searching, and somehow, that felt like progress. Outside, the sun began to set, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and gold. Ethan closed the curtains, turned off the light in Lily's room, and smiled. The room had started as a reminder of someone who had moved away. Now it had become something more. A quiet place where memories, questions, and hope all seemed to exist together. He gently closed the door behind him. He didn't know it yet, but the weeks ahead would challenge his assumptions, deepen his relationships, and teach him that understanding yourself is rarely a single moment. It's a journey, and his had only just begun. Monday mornings were never Ethan's favorite. The alarm buzzed at 6:30, and after hitting snooze twice, he finally dragged himself out of bed. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, promising a warm autumn day. Downstairs, the familiar smell of coffee greeted him. "Morning," his father said from behind the newspaper. "Morning." His mother placed a plate of toast on the table. "You look tired." "I stayed up reading." "That's a first," his father joked. Ethan laughed. "Very funny." The conversation drifted to ordinary things: work schedules, grocery shopping, and Lily's upcoming visit home for Thanksgiving. But when his mother mentioned Lily's room, Ethan found himself listening more closely. I still haven't decided what to do with it, she said. His father shrugged. Leave it as it is. It's part of the house. It's part of the family. Ethan quietly agreed. Some places carried more than furniture. They carried memories. College was busier than usual. His history professor announced a semester-long project that would account for nearly a third of the final grade. Students groaned in unison. Relax, the professor said with a smile. You'll be working in pairs. As everyone looked around for partners, Ethan felt a tap on his shoulder. Want to team up? It was Maya. She sat 2 rows behind him and was known for asking thoughtful questions in class. Sure, Ethan replied. Over lunch, they began discussing ideas. Their conversation drifted beyond history. Books, music, movies, photography. Eventually, Maya mentioned she volunteered at a community arts center on weekends. They run painting classes, photography workshops, and fashion design clubs. Fashion design? Ethan asked. Yeah. My older sister used to sketch clothing designs. Really? She never talked about it much. You should bring some of her sketches someday. I don't know if she'd want that. Fair enough. The idea stayed with Ethan for the rest of the afternoon. That evening, he found himself looking through Lily's sketchbook again. Not to copy anything, just to understand it better. He noticed how carefully she'd thought about colors, textures, and comfort. Many pages weren't about trends at all. They were about helping people feel at ease in what they wore. One note caught his eye. The best outfit is the one that lets someone stop worrying about the outfit. He smiled. That sounded exactly like Lily. Later that night, Ethan opened a blank notebook. Across the first page he wrote, Things I want to learn. What gives people confidence? Why do different people express themselves differently? How do creativity and identity connect? What kind of life do I want to build? He stared at the list. None of the questions had easy answers, but writing them down made them feel worth exploring. For the first time in a long while, the future felt less like something to fear and more like something to discover.